Yep, yep, we're live. We're live.
Okay, let me check X again. Cool. Yo, what's up? How's your week been?
It's been good. Had some Canada Day celebrations yesterday, which was nice. Fireworks and
Good
all
for
that.
you.
Um,
Canada Day.
yeah, I think it was the 158th, I believe.
Wow, that's amazing.
But yeah, how about yourself?
Doing good. Yeah. Wait, do you guys have fireworks for Canada Day?
Yeah, yeah. They allow them for certain days. Canada Day being one of them. I mean, like there's designated zones and whatnot. It's not like America where cops can't really do anything and people just launch them regardless. You still have that, sure, but it's not like to the same extent. Like our fireworks are not nearly as good.
I gotcha. Well, you can always come to South Carolina. That's just because that's where, like, have you ever heard of that? There's this story even called South of the Border. It used to be there, at least on I-95 over by the coast. Like when you go into South Carolina, it's like all the stuff, the fireworks, the fireworks, the fireworks, the fireworks, crossing the border.
Fireworks,
Gets amazing.
tobacco, guns, and smoked meats.
Yeah. Totally. That's so funny. Well, yeah, it's good to have friends in places where you can just shoot rockets off and like do fireworks and have your assault rifles whenever you want to.
Oh yeah, always a good time.
Always packing.
Yeah. How about yourself? How you
Yeah.
been?
Good. Doing good. Feeling like wow, happy July, first of all. Yeah. Second of all, actually, after Canada Day. Yeah, happy
Hmm.
July. Well, feels like July. Feels like summer. It's super nice out. Just been like outside a lot and getting things done. Just feels like good summertime vibes, I feel like. Um yeah, making art,
Sorry,
doing
they
like
just decided to start some construction right about then. Perfect timing.
oh nice. I didn't hear anything, so yeah. So, yeah, doing things, making art, chilling, doing things. Yeah,
Nice,
you know,
good stuff.
right.
You said you wanted to talk about something specific for the podcast today.
Yeah, or I guess like the past like bit here is just and you get called to this question time and time again through your life. Because you're just like, what am I doing here? You know, like, what am I doing here? What is my purpose? What am I like, why am I doing what I'm doing?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that was like I go deeper into that question. And every time I do that, like I ultimately always go deeper into the calling of my life and like my truest self. So sometimes that question can be sort of like you do have to stop and like take stock for a minute like what am I doing here? Or just suddenly something happens and you're reminded why you're doing it. You're reminded why because you could do anything with your one wild precious crazy life. So what are you doing with it? You know? It's like we ask these questions.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
like I
what's
think
the
that if we
conclusion
keep
you've come to?
conclusion yeah, right? Yeah, conclusion. Good question. Well, the conclusion for me right now is like every time that I sit down with art or sit down with the work and actually bring it to a place that's beautiful, I know why I'm doing what I'm doing there. So I feel like, and that could just be kind of like in literally in a visual sense or like in an operational sense, like the business running smoothly, that's a big part of it for me. That's like been a big part of it for me, like especially in the past bit of like growing and getting it to be set up and like functional. And then it's like it's always like everything too. Once you get this thing set up, you're like, oh, then can we do this? Can we do this? You know? So it's like there are those things too, and then yeah, just like what's the presence for? What are we doing it for? So it's like number one, we enjoy it. That's the first step. We must enjoy it or else it's not our calling, you know? We have to remember. I think that's part of it is like sometimes when I'll get in front of like a piece of work or even like I was showing you like edits for like the press section and it was just like bringing out the imagery so much more and like the entire story so much more and making it just that much more like visually readable and like feel I don't know, you know, actually shine like even more. So it's like you do these things and then, you know, because why not? Because who else? Because you love it and then also because you can. And then and then you're just doing it. You're making beautiful things in the world. You know, and I feel like with Outsider Supply in particular too, it's like it started out like a major cliff dive in ways because it was like 2020 and everything just needed to change. And then it was like, okay, let's go back to what we know, which is number one, we don't fit in exactly. Like number two, like we love art, you know? So like that's where we start. And then I was thinking about, okay, so we're talking about like the words, we're using the words 21st century Renaissance even then. And like with that, we were saying, okay, it's beginning. Like we're just gonna say like you know, just like a flag on the moon or something. You're like, okay, it's like starting. It's like the first telltale like signs of it like starting. And then like you keep going and then you realize that that means it's going to grow bigger than the two of you because it's going to be like a lot more people. So it's like now and not only like bringing that into the brand and like company, but like also in the broader world, you keep seeing people grow and develop. And it's like it's going on, it's moving forward, you know? It's like so yeah, so it's like you are here to be a part of it. Like you're artist and you're art historian. And then part of that too is like you're being part of the climate that is right now. Like you're being part of the historical moment that is right now. And yeah. That's what I was thinking about. I don't know, what do you think? What do you think? What are your thoughts?
On why we're doing this. I mean, it is certainly true that we're living through like a kind of renaissance. This actually came up in my conversation with Anaconda yesterday, or sorry, Anacondo. Was the artist that we had on yesterday, thankfully. Um, we were essentially discussing how we live in a time right now where all the kind of forms and not forms, but the institutions that exist, whether it's how we consume our media, the way that businesses are run, the way that culture is created, a lot of these pillars that once stood, well, the stability and lastingness are kind of starting to outlive their purpose because they no longer serve the interests of the people, and they're not able to exist within the real world. Like the consumerism in regards to news media has dropped to an all-time low. Like nobody's really watching TV as much anymore. Everybody's trying to adapt to the modern like streaming game, which has overtaken it. You have people that have podcasts who have better ratings than TV stations that have been around for decades and have studios across the world and all that, and they're just not able to keep up. People are kind of losing trust in their institutions left and right, whether it's political or otherwise, because they no longer kind of fit the realm of the world. And we're seeing that in just about every respect. I mean, I would imagine that museums and galleries that have had such a monopoly on the display of art for so long are also experiencing that to the same extent. I mean, I've heard stories of where I've interviewed people on the show, and they mentioned that certain galleries will not do business with you if you are in any way attached to the crypto or NFT scene. Like they don't want that whatsoever, and they're doing it at their own peril because at the end of the day, it's like this is a major industry that's popping up, and you can't ignore it. And now art has become a lot more democratized than it has ever been. It's way more accessible now than it has ever been. But the people that still stand at like the gates of all these systems, they're trying to deny the change that's going on, and you can't. Like you can't. There's not really much you can do about it. And the people that are able to realize that and capitalize on that are the ones that are going to get ahead. Um, and I think that's in a way what outsider supply is. We're not gatekeeping. We're not trying to be exclusive in certain regards. We're in fact trying to do the opposite. Trying to platform artists. We're trying to talk openly about art. We're trying to make it so that you don't need a formal education and you don't need to understand all these eras of art history in order to just enjoy what you're looking at. Um, and I feel like we're trying to provide that space for people to enjoy things in that way. Not just enjoy things, but like celebrate the act of creation itself, which is just vital. Because with the way that things are going, automation or you know, or even AI, um, it's the people that are going to be able to harness those tools that are going to be able to get ahead. People that actually can create stuff. Like if it's going to become like much easier and like much more automated to just have some product made overseas, shipped to you, and you can assemble it and have a business front on Shopify or whatnot. It's the people that are. It's not the ones that are going to be like making those things that are going to get ahead. It's the people that are actually able to come up with ideas on how to iterate and create new products and create new movies and music and art and just create in general, right?
Mhm.
And that's kind of what we're celebrating.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because it's like, what, again, it's like, what are we doing here? What are we gonna do with our lives? I think that being creative is like, we're gonna have to remember that that's like what we need to be doing. Because otherwise, what are we doing? Like, even a lot of these, yeah, let's say, like you're saying, a lot of these jobs just get automated, like the ones that you don't want to do. So that's good, you know? Like to me, that's where I always see the change too, is like when you're going through the change, it's like you're gonna have a lot of things that shift, but you have to think like this has always happened whenever industries changed a lot. Just now we're like optimizing it, we're making life easier and more interesting for humans, ideally. Like ideally that is what's happening. So like, or that's how you can choose to apply it, like we want to use AI to like be prolific and smart and like do the things like think through things or like automate things or do things like that that make things swift. And I've always loved that. I've always been like that, even before, really before when it was just talking about automation more, like even just in an e-commerce setting, like before you're really hearing the word AI all the time. Um, or words, I don't know, initials, whatever, the thing.
Acronym, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
EAI. Yeah. So it's like, yeah. So yeah, like anyway, so I've always been on board with like, Swift operations and things like that because that makes sense to me. I like that. I like everybody getting to do the fun stuff, like make something. It's like really cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be growing pains with the adoption of technology, but it happens. I mean, with just about every era. It's just now that we live in a time where it's this climb towards that has been so like slowly progressive that the things that have been automated, they're not really like noticed. There hasn't been like a day and night kind of shock to it. Like when horses became irrelevant as cars became more popular and more affordable. Um, there was like entire industries that were dying out. You had the people that actually had to shovel the poop from the streets and clean that. You had the people that actually dealt with the horses that just dropped dead, right? Because that would also happen. Just laying on the side of the street. You had that whole industry, wiped out. And then all the people that go into the maintenance of the horses, the horseshoes, the smiths, um, all of that, right? It didn't. It's not that it went away. It diminished. Then horses became like more
Yeah.
of like a high society thing. It became more of a symbol of status than a regular everyday occurrence. And yeah, there were some things that like you can make the argument for them having a lot of negative impact on the people that were involved, all the businesses lost. But ultimately, it made things a lot more accessible to people, and we only benefited from it, realistically. Um, and it's like Thomas Sowell says, there's no clear cut solutions that will end a problem. There's only trade offs. So it really depends on what kind of a problem that you want to have. Do you want to deal with the problem of uh, dealing with like horse poop on the streets and dead horses all the time? Or do you want to deal with the problem of those people going out of business, but now you're able to drive cars, you're able to get there, much, much, much quicker? I think with AI and the automation stuff, that's essentially what it's at. Like, what kind of trade offs do we want? What kind of a world do we want to live in? Do we want to live in a world where we continue this soft climb towards whatever it is that we're getting towards, and it's just going to keep going at the same kind of pace? Or do we want to live in a future that is so different than our own present time that we literally cannot even fathom it? That second part seems a lot more exciting. There's more danger involved, obviously, too. I'm not ignorant to the negative effects of automation and AI. I mean, I've already seen like there have been papers that have said that people that use ChatGPT religiously, there's parts of their brain that is not receiving the same kind of activity as it regularly would if you were to do just regular research. So
Wow.
there is certainly a danger with it. I mean, obviously, if everything is just a click of a button away and you don't have to think twice, well, all those skills that go into critical thinking kind of go out the window.
Well, that is where exactly can you rely on the AI, first of all? Because that is so true. It's like if you can't, first of all, if you can't do the critical thinking and then you aren't even thinking about doing the critical thinking and even questioning the AI ever. Yeah, absolutely, totally. Because, yeah, on the one hand, it's like, yeah, you want to be able to like think through things. Like there's something fun about it whenever you do get in there and you're like, okay, yeah, you could work through things like quickly in some type of way. And yeah, but you gotta make sure it's correct. And that's very interesting. Turning off parts of your brain. Yeah, we need to know kind of about what we're doing, I think. And like, um, but yeah, I mean, it's gonna be like fast. I don't think there's gonna be any like slowing it down. I think that like right now, like the main thing that I feel like should simply be required are like obviously obvious kill switches to
Mm,
things and good customer service. I think those two things right there would pretty much put you in a good place to go forward into the future with the proper amount of security to make it operational instead of saying, "Oh, you have to keep it in a lab and do this and that." Yeah, those are my two things that I feel like are kind of missing or like should be there, I guess. It's like, but then also, of course, it's like there's transparency, there's knowing what it's based on. We could go on a whole rabbit hole. Like, la la la. So that's also the question. It's like, what are we doing here? Floating around the algorithm. Hello. Like, here we are. And I feel like, yeah, like in this life right now, in this 21st century world, where thankfully around us in a lot of ways there is peace. Like in our, when we walk outside the door, generally speaking, most of the time, there is peace. Like, and then we're able to go freely and do what we're doing, what we want to do in our lives. And yeah, it's like if we're maybe like remembering, because art's sort of extra, you know, it's not usually what you do. It is what you do if you need to communicate something. You know, we see that like in the beginnings of things, like if we want to talk about cave paintings or whatnot. It's like it is used to communicate things first. So there's that. Like I guess maybe that's even just like to give ourselves the space to be like art's one of these original ways that we're like storytelling and or somehow it blends together art and writing and yeah, and to me also like art is an artifact, so you are really looking at something that happened then. It's so reflective of that time in history in whatever way it's reflective of it. No matter what, it was made then. So it's interesting for that reason alone. Like, what was even going on then, you know? And so it's like you create this anthology and you encourage people to, you just provide a way. It's not even about really just encouraging people to so much like, oh, you should do this. No, it's just like sort of being around. It is kind of like flowers in the sidewalk, like just having art around, you know, showing up. And the internet's our great way to do that, right? Because of course we could like certainly decide that we want to open up flagships and like do that type of thing. But really, and that would be fun, you know, that would be a whole other endeavor. It's like a lot of different things involved. But like as far as like being on the internet and being present, it's like, okay, this is really cool actually. Like we must remember that like despite the fact that it might be hard to figure out at first how to reach people, like we can all connect based off of this common intrigue. And really, it's just like when you do take the time, it's like I kind of just miss Europe so much, right? It's like um there's so much more of this like life for life's sake feeling, I feel like there, like embedded into the adult culture. When you're a kid in the United States, it's like you're playing, you're carefree kind of to a degree. It's like, you know,
Hmm.
you have no responsibilities to a degree, etc. Like when you become an adult, it's like all responsibility. Like it's all work. It's all responsibility. It's
Hmm.
all the future is on your shoulders. It's all that. So it's like what about like how are we living along the way as we do this? Because like I do think that also like humans feeling like they have a reason that they want to live is so important to them living like as a species. Like we have to actually, but the only thing that can do that for us, I think, is accountability and relationships. I think that's it. Like and like taking care of your needs is relationships with any and everything. Relationships with anything and everything. It's all it is. It's like, what's our relationship to this thing, you know? And then how is that going in the direction of the life that we want to experience? And what do we want to have in that? So, anyways, the bigger, it's kind of the micro macro always, right? So it's like, yeah, you're looking at like what do we want in this life? And maybe we want to see more things that we want to see out there. So maybe that's like part of what we're doing, you know, in our work here in particular, like is making more things that you just want to come across out there in the wild, right? It's like what are we doing? What are we contributing into like the ether, like into the bigger picture of things? Like yeah.
Yeah, I mean, speaking on what you said about purpose, I think that's why, or the situation that we find ourselves in, is a direct example of what happens when people lose purpose or have a harder time attaining it. Because at this rate, you know, religion globally, like that the adoption of it is going down, especially in westernized countries. um, and that used to be a place where, as you said, the relationships that you form in your community, in your city, in your township, and then as your nation, it revolves around certain immutable ideals that are in some way or another reflected in something like religion. But now that idea is kind of it's had a harder time being adopted by youth, and once the next generation dies off, then that statistic becomes like the shared reality. And then if this keeps progressing, it's interesting to think about where it would head. But even just in the things that people spend time on, whether it's protesting or trolling on the internet or what have you, just all these things that are not really, they're fulfilling in the moment, but they're not really, there's no sustaining that, there's no sustenance to it. It's just kind of like an immediate dopamine rush, or even like putting yourself into a rabbit hole of like Netflix documentaries or what have you. It's just become all too common of like a pastime, to the point where like I've heard that like if you go on dating websites now, there's like people that put like watching Netflix as a hobby. It's like you know, watching a show every now and
Yeah,
then, sure.
you would need to agree to be wanting to do that. Like if you want to sit there and like watch a lot of TV all day, then like ooh, you might want to have make sure that like that's like or you might not want to be doing that, you know? Like you might not want to be doing that.
Yeah,
Crazy time.
it's
What?
just
Okay.
it's just become like all too easy to be a consumer. And at the end of the day, like that leaves you empty, because if you're not making like anything, um then there's not really any way for you to um take your ideals and what you believe in and materialize them in the real world. You can purchase things, sure, but if you're not actually doing anything to create something new, then that can lead to a lack of purpose, and that's it's not a good path to go down on. Because somebody that's like without a purpose, well, you'll what's that saying? Like if you don't believe in anything, you'll fall for everything, or you'll fall for anything.
Yeah.
And
So true.
and the act of creation, regardless of like what it is, whether it's a canvas piece, a piece of music, digital work, what have you, um, there's at least some kind of a purpose there. There's at least something to be gained there. And even if it's not artistic, I mean, in yesterday's interview with Anna, she mentioned that the thing is like art. It's not just what you see in galleries. Just about everything you see is art. I mean, every time like I look at my desk, I'll like see like a trinket or something. Like I have this watch. I don't know if the camera will show it, but it's like an old German like desk watch, and it folds up into like a little case. And it's like somebody
Nice.
somebody had to spend time designing that. Somebody had to spend
Yeah.
time designing the mechanism. Somebody had to spend time putting it together. Somebody had to spend time marketing it. Like every single step along that process, there's a form of art to be found there. Um, and thinking about art in that way, it it really loosens the boundaries about like what you can actually create and what's possible. And I think that's going to be one of the ways that people find purpose, or make purpose, better yet, in the future, is as these tools, and as we said before, of creation get easier to access, cheaper, and it becomes globally adopted. Then the people that are going to be the makers, that are actually doing stuff, that are just doing stuff, uh, they're the ones that are actually going to be able to survive. Because otherwise, like if you're just a consumer, like it's going to be that Wally world where everyone's just obese and riding those hover chairs and watching TV or what have you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I know, right? It could really become that. You have to be careful. Like, don't do it. Yeah, again, it's like, but I do think that while all this stuff is challenging, and again, it really calls you back to your own accountability, which is all we ever really needed in the first place. So I think it's good because you just are going to continue to ask yourself over and over again, like throughout your life at various points, like making sure that you're doing something that's like you want to be doing. So it's like, you get beyond any type of messaging and you do tap into like your true self. Like the messaging serves a purpose, you know, it's like again, we communicate for a reason. It's like it's not like all communication is all like misleading and whatnot. Like some of it is actually just like clear and truthful. So it's like we have to remember that like, you know, yeah, like we want to communicate and maybe like learn from others. It's interesting because like there's also this effect. I mean, I'm just throwing this out there too. It's like, you know, you just imagine that like they create so much mistrust and communication among people and like among people to like reason for themselves that then they do just ultimately rely on the artificial intelligence. And then that could again it could be just skewed. So it's like yeah, I mean, a lot of people are gonna go down that route, you know? They just are. They
What do you
just
mean by that? Like that falling for like the what they call misinformation and disinformation and all that, or
yeah, and I think even like more subtle than that, you know? Just like it can be really, yeah, mis or disinformation, but also just sort of like maybe you could just say it like propaganda type of things, but like more like subtle, you know, just really subtle stuff. So like the whole mood of things can be changed by like saying like I don't know, something as simple as I don't know. I don't know. Let me think of an example. I have an example to show you. Um, like I would always or I wouldn't never. Like you could change the whole vibe by the simple way that you are using language. So I'm just saying that like okay, like for example, recently with ChatGPT, like I don't know, a few weeks ago, a couple weeks ago, they updated the version, something updated. I'm not as like following along with it as some people are, where it's like, oh, this release is happening on this day. I'm not like, maybe I'll become more like that as I use it more. But like, you know, I just noticed that he's different the way that he's communicating. And I don't really like the way that the information's coming actually as much. And so I actually kind of quit using it. And I got more interested in Grok, just saying. But like, uh, yeah, because just thinking it's like yeah, there's a lot that matters, I think, as far as like the subtleties of it, like the layers of culture that are before us. So it's like, yeah, with the future, yeah, bro. That's so interesting. I still can't believe about putting that people like Netflix in their bio on like a dating app. That's crazy to me. But interesting. But you would want to know. It's so crazy.
yeah,
Some
but
people
and
are locked in on those shows. So crazy.
yeah, they certainly are, and I think like one of the ways of combating what you're bringing up as a valid concern in terms of well, just the ability for information to be twisted or used against people. I think like the only thing that combats that is people that um, have integrity and have a sense of purpose that is something that's long lasting. Maybe not long lasting, but something that's enduring rather. Um, that would be really the only way to go about it because, like, realistically, and I've mentioned this to my friends before. Like when it comes to federal politics or like all this stuff that is just always on the news, just things that are enraging, regardless of what side of the aisle that you're on. Um, that stuff doesn't matter nearly as much as what's going on in your actual local neighborhood, your city, your street, your state, your province. Um, and coming to that realization and trying to focus on things that are more in effect with your like local circle, things that actually do affect your day-to-day life. Um, Once you flip that switch, life just becomes like a lot easier. I've started to pay attention to like all this enraging politics less, just personally. Mental health is feeling a lot better. And even though there's like plenty of reasons to be mad or be enraged about these things, some of them are justified, some of them are not. Um, realistically, the most impact that you can have is within your inner circle. Unless you happen to be some kind of billionaire, then by all means lobby for whatever changes you want to see in the world. But most of us are not that, so you're really only left with the option of like focusing locally. Um, and I think people that do that with a sense of purpose, that's really the only way. I mean, through just about everything that we're going to face, whether it's AI hallucinations or automation or what have you. Um, there's not really any sense in worrying about these like big picture things. Like realistically, we're not going to affect climate change. We're just not. Or what
Well, I
happens
think
in the
we
war.
could if we planted a lot of trees.
No,
That's an
certainly,
easy
certainly.
one.
But I mean, like, I
I mean,
mean, more
like,
so.
that's just an easy one. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, more so like climate change policy. Like, if a country decides like, okay, we're switching to EVs or whatnot, it's like you guys got voted in 3 years ago. There's not really much anyone can do. They're going to make the policies that they
yeah,
want. But as you said, uh, yeah, you can actually affect it in your local neighborhood. Plant some trees, plant some flowers that are attracting bees. Um,
yeah,
get a garden going. What have you. There's personal decisions you can make, and focusing on that, yeah, that'll actually like make an impact. And I think that's probably going to be one of the frames of purpose that people are going to come back to, just because it's like it's only a matter of time. Like you can only be angry so many times in a day where you're just like, okay,
yeah,
I really just don't want to do anything with this.
yeah. So real. Yeah, you never know. Like, I love the story of a man who he revived this entire butterfly population because he planted this particular type of flower in his backyard. He like saved this whole species just like by planting his backyard. Hey, give me 1 second. I need to like plug in I need to get my charger.
Sure, no problem. Let me see if I can
Actually, can
pull
we
up.
take a short commercial break? I'm gonna get some more tea as well.
Yeah, not a problem. We'll be right back, guys.
Okay, cool. Be right back.
And we're back.
Okay, great. Posting it. I mean, the name just fell right into, I mean, it's just out of the sky. It had to be live yappenings.
That's right. And yeah, I did find that story about the butterfly guy. So it turned out it's a U.S. biologist by the name of Ting Wong who rescued the California pipevine swallowtail butterflies, which are known for their blue hue.
Yeah.
They're pretty. Um, yeah, he planted this pollinator habitat in his backyard, which is something that just about everyone can do. I mean, you'd be surprised. Like my mom lives in a fairly high apartment complex up on a very high floor, and even the times that we've planted pollinating flowers. Yeah, we've had bees up there. So you don't need to have some like big space or big room. Even just a little pot outside your window can certainly help a lot. But yeah, it's just more to the point that we were talking about, where focusing on impacting change locally, it's a lot more rewarding and a lot more sustaining. It'll actually like make you care about where you live. Like once you actually start doing those things, you'll actually start to realize just how much you rely on your immediate environment more than some highfalutin political idea of people that you'll never meet or never see for the sake of what? So like you can have arguments at parties and show that you're the smartest cookie. Like, okay, all right.
Yeah. Yeah, for what? For what? What are you building? What experiences do you want to have?
Yeah, the
This is
future. The
really,
future's for the
really,
builders. The future's for the
yeah.
people that take initiative, that have agency.
Yeah.
It's always been. It's always been like that.
It's always been. And it's like, I feel like too that, it's not really something that you want to feel like you're gonna give up wanting to do. Like, I think sometimes for girls in the world, we can get really conflicted about, like, what are we supposed to want to be doing? You know? Because like, do we work? Do we stay at home? Like, do we what? Do we what? You know? And you have this whole question of like, what? But the thing is this, no matter what you're doing, whatever path you choose, you're doing a lot. Like, you're doing stuff, you know? Like, even if you're that lady that goes to like the symphony and like on the committee, you're doing stuff. Like these, even like ladies that like just ladies at lunch and stuff, you know? It's like even those ladies, they find things that they like to do. So it's like, again, if you just kind of thought about it a little bit in this post-scarcity way, of like your needs are met, you have what you want, like essentially, you know, in like the correct way, whatever that means for you authentically. And then doesn't mean that you can't want something else, I should say, because that's like, you know, again, the desire to create something. It's like I think there are a couple ways to be in this world. It's like either you're completely like the Buddhist, where it's like you give it all up, or it's like you align with what you want to manifest, but it's really hard to do both. So it's like you have to kind of like commit to one or the other in order for the magic to work out properly. And so, but you can learn principles from both about how to achieve what you're going for. But yeah, it's like these small things can add up to these big things. Uh I also, of course, obviously going back to thinking about local stuff makes me think about Maya World. Um of course, because again, that's like that is just the interesting thing that that also points out as well is um that with Maya World there will be like a locality. There will be a localism to it, I guess you could say. Um, it is designed to connect people near each other as well, and there's a lot that can come out of that. But yeah, and of course there's the beauty of the internet, of course, is that you're connecting over like-minded things. You know, that's how I wound up there. Because, like, around me here, I don't have peers like that that are thinking about certain type of things. So, but I do because little Juliet moved to the hood. But, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, she she's still, like, on the other mountain range. So, I don't get to see her every day. But, like, just saying, like, well, first of all, I need to probably relocate to a city for a time in my life. But yeah. Like, nonetheless, what are we doing? How are we connecting in real life? If you can choose whatever you want to do in real life, what is it?
That
You
is the
want to go
question.
places? You want to eat snacks? Like, what do you want to do? Like, you want
Yeah.
to, yeah, what do you want to do?
And for those that don't know, Maya World, so this is the visualization of it. It's essentially a space created by Little Juliet, who we've had on the podcast before. Let me actually see if I can pull up the website here. Yeah, we did an episode with her recently. That's number 14 there, where she talked about the necessity for creating Maya World, which is essentially a space for people to enjoy the internet in a different way. It's not really a social network, but a place where everybody has a little house, and they can choose whatever they want to be put in that little house, and you can share things, YouTube videos, poems, what have you. Just about anything that's digital can go in there. And it just it's a place that people can have to themselves, and it's not a timeline that will refresh the next day. It seems a little bit more permanent, and it's all thanks to a tight knit community of people. So everybody feels like they have a shared investment in how my world propagates and what happens with it. So yeah, it's just one of those things that, once again, people shifting towards. Oh, click the one over the rooms.
Cool.
Oh, there we go. Somebody made
Look at
a
that.
Oh,
Yeah. It's so
Barbie
cute.
horse theme. Interesting.
Yeah, like art. I love, literally, I can't believe she's so goated for building this thing. It is an art gallery in cyberspace. It's just, I mean, it's all these things. It's all these things.
Yeah,
It's so cute.
yeah, it's like an art gallery in cyberspace, and you can make it however you like within
Yeah.
certain restrictions. But yeah, you can make it however you like, basically. And so spaces like this are, it's not only necessary, but like they hit at something that a platform like Facebook or Instagram or Twitter really can't. Because forums used to be the places where people kind of gathered outside of those big spots. That's where people had those conversations um, on just about anything, whether it's like fitness or tech, science, what have you. Now it just kind of happens on a timeline. There's still forums and whatnot, but they're not nearly as popular as they used to be. Not for
Yeah.
the average person, anyways.
Yeah, and now Reddit is gonna have to like scan your iris or something.
Is
Just
there like a
kidding.
new announcement that they made, or oh,
Well, I think, isn't it true that OpenAI, didn't they buy Reddit or something like that? What happened with
I don't
OpenAI and Reddit?
I don't think
I'm
OpenAI bought Reddit, but I know that
something about using the eye scan technology for Reddit. Am I wildly wrong? Like, there's so much happening these days. It does become like lore.
oh yeah, Reddit is in talks to embrace Sam Altman's iris scanning orb to verify users.
Yeah,
Interesting. Yeah, I don't like that.
crazy.
I don't like that at all. I don't need my eye scanned.
Yeah, what is that about?
Yeah, the 23andMe shutdown was spooky enough for people. I don't think we need this.
Yeah, wait,
Um,
remind me what happened with that now? Because I actually, yeah, I never did any of those type of things. Like,
well, 23andMe they went out of business and they got bought out by a company. And as they were getting bought out, there was a hearing, I think, in the Senate or something, talking about how that information was going to be transferred because it's a bit of a security risk if you have all this genetic information that's bought by a company overseas that's tied to God knows which country or which military. That's a lot of genetic information that you can use for
whoa.
whichever purposes. So yeah, there was like a huge scandal with people like trying to make it so that their information was wiped out, and there were some issues with that on 23andMe's end. So yeah, there's a whole hearing about it. I don't know what the conclusion was, but yeah, as soon as that came out that they were getting sold out, people realized, oh, we actually don't own the data that we sent them. They were actually just using it and collecting it and waiting for a buyer, and then they found a buyer. So
Oh.
what's going to happen with that now? I don't know.
Yes. Well, I think that situation right there is so apt for this day and age. It's like when you sign up with one company and you agree to what, first of all, you know? And then after that, yeah, like these rights, are they transferred? I think it's like last week, or I think I was saying it last week, or I don't know when, but it's like, let's say like you get on some app and they're like, oh, let's sync your contacts. And if you say yes, it's just weird because like your contacts did not transitively agree to that. You know what I mean? I feel like that's like, I feel like there would be a great lawsuit that could come out of that, but I don't really know how those type of lawsuits work. But like, it's like, who agreed? Like, how many times have our phone numbers been shared by our friends and relatives? Like, just like sort of la-di-da, but without our consent, you know? Is that really how that works?
I honestly don't
Mm.
know because like the challenge would be like what is it that happens to that data? Is it just like does it just do a quick reference check of who else based on that contact info is on the platform so you can add them as friends, or does it store it somewhere? I mean, the most famous incident that I remember was there was that ageifying app that came out where it would take your photo and it would ageify you, and it was turns out this like once it blew up around the world and everyone started using it, it asked for your email to sign up, and it turns out that that app was actually made by some Russians, and people, when they found out, they're like,
Just
oh,
now.
that's that's a bit concerning, because now they just have a giant list of emails to do whatever the hell they want with, you know. And who's to say if the government isn't going to pressure them to hand over that, or who's to say that's not an extension of the government? And that's not just like Russia that does it. Like America has done it too with social media apps. They famously had an incident where they built a Twitter clone on for Cuba to use, and it was for their citizens. They built it through some CIA subsidiary or something, and it started off with like, oh, you get hurricane warnings, and you get notices about like local art scenes and clubs and parties and all that. And if you want to be social in Cuba, there's not really a lot of choices, so you got to go on this platform. Well, once they got a critical mass of users, they, turned off like the weather alerts and all that other stuff. And now they started pushing for like, oh, hey, there's a protest here. You guys should show up. So it's trying to
What?
subvert
Yes.
the local government.
Yeah.
And
What?
so any of these things, right? Like Facebook had its moment with the 2016 election, and since then they've kind of been walking on
Oh,
eggshells.
lest we
Um,
forget. Like what?
yeah,
Crazy.
and so now we're kind of living in an age where just about every app or like link that you click, like you really, 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 really have to second guess what kind of information it is that you're giving away. What is it that you're actually giving up for the sake of what? Like posting? Like what are you actually
Right.
getting out of it?
What are you getting out of it? Like, because yeah, if it's fun and cathartic, then that's one thing, But yeah, it's like, are you? It's just such a good question. Like, do they deserve your data?
Yeah,
Do
and
they
then what's gonna
deserve your
happen to it?
beautiful mind and your data? It's like, do they deserve your? But like, whether they do or don't, you make the choice, I think, whether you want to still be there or not. Like, that's part of the choice that you're making, if you're like thinking about it in those terms.
Hmm.
But like, yeah, part of it is you're still making that choice. It's sort of like, ooh, yeah, interesting. But yeah, the future is unknown. Hello. It's like just let it be that way. The future's unknown. We
Yeah.
will make things and then we will see what happens. Um, and like along the way, there is a lot because like some of it's so far-fetched and not far-fetched, but some of it's so sci-fi, I guess you could just say. And it does just bring up a lot of considerations. You're like, oh. Um, but yeah, nonetheless, it still goes back to what are we doing? And for some people too, like the thing that they do want to do day in and day out is simply that they want to ride in rockets and like be on missions. I think some people want to be on a mission like that. That's like everyone's on a mission, purpose mission. What are we talking about here? Like somewhere in there. In your purpose, you find your mission, or your mission, you find your purpose, something like that. Some people, they do want to be like on the rocket ship. They still need art though in outer space. I mean, they're surrounded by beauty, but yeah, they might want some art too. But like, they might like some art in their life. Maybe it's music, maybe it's what. But like, yeah, some people are wanting to do that. Like, and that's what they want to do. So they work their whole lives toward that. And maybe they actually make it happen. That would be cool. Feels like it's gonna happen. Um, and yeah, just like kind of all these just sort of totally dramatic changes in society all at once. Very close time together, you know. It's gonna be interesting. And again, just like go back to like in the midst of all of that, what are you doing? Yeah, what do you want to be doing? Maybe you want to be like getting like corn from your backyard, or something like that. Like that might be like what you want to do too. Like, I don't know, maybe we're on computers a lot. Like, you might want to touch grass. You might want to. Hmm.
Yeah, no, you
Yeah.
definitely need the balance. Yeah, I mean, in terms of the role of art, looking forward to the future, I think it's gonna become a more important question over time, just because it feels as though culture has, at least in the West, devolved in a lot of ways. We're not really making things to stand for decades, let alone centuries. And the things that we glorify in the form of statues are not actually based on universal ideals that people can recognize and celebrate. Um, Especially whenever these statues are related to some kind of like social justice or protest cause, it doesn't really hit the nail on the head when it comes to um, celebrating certain immutable human ideas that last over time. And regardless of like anyone's political opinion on like the statues going up or going down, um, there was a certain kind of spirit that was involved in their building that is ignored for the sake of sensitivity or what have you. Um, and that's not really the way that we can make something lasting or something worth defending, being against some of these certain ideals. I mean, the pendulum swing, and the culture will eventually like come back. But at the end of the day, like right now, we're just in that period where we're glorifying ideas that are actually not at all sustaining. I mean, there was even I forget his name. I think is it Lil Peep? No, not Lil Peep. There's another. There's some Polish like rapper. Um, he did this interview with this guy. I'm not gonna find it. I forget his name. But in any case, he was doing this interview with this guy on the NYC subway. And he's famous for like asking people like, "What's your hot take?" And he basically said something along the lines of like, "Yeah, the party's over. Like it's done. All this like glorification of consuming copious amounts of what drug of your choice, chasing after women and money and all that constantly, like it's over. It's not a sustainable thing." And that's like coming from someone that did that for the longest time, hung out in that scene, existed in that scene where that's glorified and where that's celebrated. And he's like, yeah, no, at this point it's all about family life. I mean, you even hear like constantly
Yeah. I feel like that's
OnlyFans.
where we're both heading in this conversation. Yeah.
Yeah,
Family.
and constantly you hear about like OnlyFans creators turning to Jesus. Like people are just they're converting left and right because they realize that there's really nothing, you know, nothing that will sustain you or the generation to come if you go down that path. I mean,
Yeah.
even Miley Cyrus chilled out. Like even even she, you know, managed to calm down and relax. And I don't know what role religion plays in her life. But I would bet some money that it has something to do with it. Um, Even like some of the like people that popped off on Vine initially, they've like become like born again Christians essentially, because they realized like the content that they were creating, that they were consuming, that they were helping to popularize, it wasn't really headed anywhere um, that was going to do anything for them. And by all means, convert. Like if that's what your purpose is, if that's where you find meaning, then sure. Um, but that I think that's going to start hitting home for a lot more people down the line. I think it's only a matter of time before this kind of not empty but self-serving pursuit of comfort and social status, that it's gonna collide with reality, and you're not gonna be able to live that life for long enough. I mean, even Dan Bilzerian,
Mm.
He's come out and he's said like, yeah, no, I'm done with that. I can't. It's not sustainable. I was like the most depressed when I had millions of dollars and all these models come through for weekends and all this other stuff. Um, it's become a lot quicker and a lot easier for people to achieve that status now that we have the internet, and because their life is what they plaster up for everyone to see. We also see that like that redemption part where they're trying to seek something that is more sustainable, something that actually has ideals behind it, that can lead them someplace instead of just like a self-consuming vortex of hot Cheetos and Netflix and weed and what have you. Um, that's not really it's not going to get you far. I mean, sure, you might be able to get away with it in like college and university for a couple of years, but after that, like what happens when the party's over? What do you do when the party's over?
Yeah, like your whole life needs to be what you're looking forward to, ideally, as much as possible, even the hard parts to some degree, because it's part of the human experience. It's like, you know, even then, not to look forward to it like that in that way, but that that it's like going to be part of, but also what, you need to hold space for life and being okay with what's coming and like in all the ways, whatever that might mean. But like, yeah, definitely like going back to your ideals and things that last. And I do feel like that's where maybe that sentiment will ultimately be reflected in the art too that is being made today. I mean, right now there are some interesting things I don't always feel so connected in because obviously there's so much going on out there. It's like how can you even know everything? Um, but even just from seeing like uh again, like in an online presence where you see people that are building literally like using like there's like CNC water jets to build an entirely like big monuments, like something new, like something that's supposed to last longer. And yeah, even like AI art that's really generative, but at this point it's generative, but I think a lot of these people are going to start making films or like cinema, we'll call it, Um Yeah, isn't that amazing? I think it's like a wonderful thing that they're doing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's very cool also to do things by hand, but that's also dope.
Well, it gets what I'm showing here for the listeners. It's a clip posted by Monumental Labs on Twitter, where they have a bust that they created, and it's initially it's carved out by a CNC machine, but then it's hand carved and like sanded down and all that. So there is a bit of a manual element to it still. Um, but yes, I am very excited to see what they come up with, um, especially when it comes to bigger pieces, because you do need that. Like, it'd be cool if we had this in
Pretty
places
cool.
in North America. It'd be great if we had malls that were built like this or just open atriums like that. Um, oh, I think this is actually announcing a partnership. Uh, yeah, it looks like this partnership with the Vatican Museum in America. They're going to replicate 1,600 sculptures from the Vatican collection. Wow.
Interesting. Huh. Wow, that's really wild.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Yeah, that's awesome. No, yeah, absolutely. You need that. You do. We can't all just live in steel and glass structures, like miniature, like condos and rooms and all that. Like, we need beauty. We need something to look up to. Like, there's parts of Toronto where I go downtown, really old ones, and I just see the architecture that was placed and designed specifically for that space back, way back when it was built, just under 100 years ago. Um, and it gives you a sense that, like that people really cared about this standing the test of time. They really cared about the impression that it would make on people. And that's not to say that like you can't make a beautiful building with steel beams and glass. You certainly can, but doesn't look like a lot of that is happening. So maybe some kind of an initiative that seeks to exemplify beauty and man's triumph over nature in the surroundings that we have, that would be a net benefit for everyone. I mean, like, why would you want to live in a place where all the houses look the same? Why would you want to live in a place where all the apartments look the same? Um, if you'd like to, like, by all means, Eastern Europe will gladly take you. There's plenty of Soviet apartment blocks that you can live in. You know, by all means, there's places in the world that are like that, but they're fundamentally devoid of beauty. They're fundamentally devoid of purpose beyond housing, and there is a purpose
Right.
beyond
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's like that's what it's like we can boil everything down to function so much because it's like and that is where a lot of criticism comes out. I feel like our conversations are inevitably always gonna like weave the Bauhaus in to some degree because that's so much where this all started, like this reductivist way. I mean, it's interesting because I do think that's again well, just to say, like, the overarching is that you ultimately come back to living by your ideals because, like, you've already tried all this stuff. You've minimized it to the point where it's not even life, like, filled with life anymore. And so, like, we've done that, I feel like that's sort of, again, it's like the 20th century, and then coming up until now, where it's like, of course, I'm not saying that everything that you see out there is like literally an empty box, but like there is so much of that was going on like at a certain point and still is. Like, gosh, even like when I go, I don't know, let's take Asheville for example, a city that's like growing a lot. And it's like there's a lot of this kind of it's not only that the apartment buildings going up are cookie cutter, but they just don't look like they're gonna last. Like the materials don't look sturdy, like they just don't look they're not really that pretty and they don't look that sturdy. So it's like, why? You know? Yeah. And I don't know, like when I was in China, I went into a lot of different living situations there and like different apartment buildings and like yeah, you could get reduced down to studios like pretty quickly. Like there's just like a lot of ways it could go, So you have to be like, is that what you want? Like, um yeah, like this look it is actually very depressing, to be honest.
For a hospital too,
Yeah. Oh, you're in Asheville. Oh my gosh.
like
You're
for
cruising in
for
there.
for for a place that people are healing. Like, is this really
I
the best
know.
that we can do? Just like glass windows, like that's it? Like, okay, cool.
Yeah. It is kind of like, at least some of the patients that stay there, they like have a view out, I could say. But like, oh yeah, but just like, I don't know where to tell you to look in Asheville, but like, I'm not that familiar with it, like how to tell you where to go. But like, ugh, come on. Yeah, like no. Oh my gosh, like first try you found one. No.
Yeah,
That's literally no.
like there it
First
is.
first pin on the map. It's not the hospital. No. Help.
Yeah, like what is this? It's
No.
just they made it cute because there's like black bricks. Like what kind of an architect builds their career off designing stuff like this? Like, is this really what we're limiting ourselves to? Is this really all that we have, just for utility's sake?
Is this it? Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
there's
No, for real legit. Like it's just a CAD drawing. Everything looks like a CAD drawing, and that's why it's bad, Like right now. Everything looks like a CAD drawing. Again, like, I mean, I probably say this like every time we talk about anything either in a way, because I'm always like, we all harp on the same things, but it's like hardy board, like I can tell hardy board from like a mile away, like no doubt. Which hardy board is like a composite, like cement that's poured to look like a slab of wood. And I mean, it's pretty convincing, but I can always tell from like a mile away because it's a totally different material. I can just see the material. It bothers me. I like the wood, but I understand the hardy board. Okay, I understand it, but you know, you're like, ah, yeah, like what is this doing for us? And a lot of these cities too, it's like nobody even walks around. Like European cities are where it's at for me. Like I loved like living in my little like European city life. It's fun.
There's an apartment that I'm looking for. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find it, but it essentially has it achieves its purpose of being a livable space, but it does it in a way without sacrificing anything for the look of the actual of the building. I'm gonna see if I can find it somehow here.
And I mean, credit where credit's due. There are trees, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of green space there. I mean,
Yeah.
this I don't really mind. I
Yeah,
I
that's
get it. There's
taller.
a look to it.
Yeah, I agree. Hmm.
But there's this one where they built like a cascading, or like even this, like the round balconies. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, and they have like an edge to them as well. Like that's cool.
It's cool.
But
Still a little
there's
barren feeling in between. It just feels like again, it feels like lacking life a little bit, but just big broad avenues and stuff like that, it's just gonna create that too. So
yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna see if I can hunt this
yeah.
down because it is a bit of an inventive design with how they made it.
Hmm. Yeah, it's been a minute since I've been to Toronto. I am very overdue to come up there. Gotta
It's
go out for
nice.
dim sum.
It's got
Yeah.
its niceties. Always something happening.
Yeah. Always something happening.
Damn, am I really not gonna find it? That is unfortunate. Because
Mm.
it's a fairly infamous set of apartments. Very, very hard to acquire living space there. Just because of how popular they are. Damn, that's unfortunate. Oh well. But yeah,
Well, we know they're out there. They blended in so well we couldn't even find them on the map. So there you
they
go.
all look the same. More to our point.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. More to our point. Darn it. Yeah.
Well, even like
I
in
mean,
Canada, they're considering right now. They're considering involving the government in the creation of modular housing, and they
oh
want to make
no.
it so that
Oh no.
people live in basically shipping containers. Let me see if I can find the yeah, so like stuff like this, so they can make the homes on a conveyor essentially, and then just ship them out and plop them down, and there you go. There you have a home. But it's like that looks like a cardboard box, man. Like you can spruce it up with whatever kind of cut of wood you want, but that's just like a small shipping container essentially. Um,
Yeah, what are you gonna do with all that snow on the roof anyway?
yeah, well there's a meeting that Trudeau had where he walked through. Yeah, here they are. Yeah, some of these houses here. I was like, yeah, it's basically like an RV but without wheels.
Yeah. Interesting.
And they want to involve the government in the making of these homes. It's like that's about no. That's about we actually make homes beautiful again.
Yeah, make homes beautiful again. That's so real. Listen, it's so important. Again, it's like, what do you want to do with your life? Number one, if you're, I love that thought, like, make your home a soft landing place. Like, make your home an oasis. I've had that thought too a lot lately because, like, I've sort of set up this very cute patio situation. It's actually a balcony. Like, it's like a, yeah, but like just an outdoor space. And it is like a vacation, I gotta admit. I like what I did. And I'm like, ooh, yeah, this is the vibe. Like life on vacay, love it. And then you're like in your little setting, and then you're doing your work, and it's like very groovy. it's like you could set the vibe, make your home beautiful.
Well, I mean, even these, right? Like these the three homes here, they're called the Painted Ladies in San Francisco. I think they're infamous because there were some movies that were shot there. But like, yeah, like look at that. Every single one of them has an individual flair, whether it's the coloring or the trim or what have you.
Yeah,
And there's a reason why these homes are so famous and so sought after. Like people come in there as a tourist attraction, and there is somebody that lives there, but you know they're fully aware of its fame, I'd imagine. But like, there's a reason. There's a reason for that. It's not just because there was a movie that was shot there, but like that movie or that show was shot there because of how unique looking or how interesting those houses are. Meanwhile, like right
yeah,
beside it, well, even this actually, you know what?
yeah,
I gave it some shit, but no, like even this, like this little inlay right here,
yeah. It
or
matters.
the fire escape.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the archway. I yeah, I do like row houses. And you do find that in also in like I know for sure like in Washington DC and then like in in most of the major cities you're finding that. They're really quite pretty. Like some of them Boston, very pretty with the row houses. There are pretty neighborhoods like everywhere. Like even in Denver, like I wouldn't say Denver's much to write home about like the way it looks, but there are some really pretty neighborhoods there, you know, where you do see. And there's some interesting stuff happening that's new, that's cute too. And it does feel like um more of like an area where you want to live. Like you're like, okay, yeah, this is cute, it's like vibey. And I think that some of that stuff just changes with the eras too. So like it was I think probably more vibrant like at a different time and then like comes back around. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, at any rate, and it is crazy too. Like a lot of what we're talking about is so new in the world. Like fortunately there are places in the world where there's old stuff. Oh, that's so pretty.
yeah. I'm looking for
Um
this one shot of the science center that they have in Valencia. Um, they made it into like an architectural marvel where, you know, at this point I'm gonna have to rely on Google Images. For some reason they don't have a street view there because it is quite stunning. Um, but yeah, like this.
yeah,
Like
lovely.
this is just their science center. You know,
Wow.
this is just like a museum that you can walk through. I think the main building is on the left there, but yeah, like even in a tightly packed place like Spain, they still found the initiative and the wherewithal to make this a reality. I can't imagine how much work it would have taken to set something like this up and how much time it would have been taken. But they clearly saw it as important, so they did it. And now they have, I mean, something that is like truly majestic. I don't really know any other words for it. Like when the sun's going down and you're just sitting by this reflecting pool, um, it's beautiful. It's amazing. And then, you know,
Awesome.
I look at the Ontario Science Center.
No. And like Canada also it's oh yeah.
Well, it
Okay.
has a look to it, right? It's no
Yeah,
Valencia,
it's
and I
got a
get
look
it.
to
You
it.
know,
Yeah.
different climate, and they have to deal with their own things. But you know,
Yeah.
they made an effort too. They made an effort to for it
Yeah.
to just not be like a blocky museum.
Yeah. It's cool. Very true. Yeah, there's a lot to consider. And I feel like too that's like a lot of the conversations. Well, it's kind of fun that Rococo is happening now in the shop because um yeah, there's also just that return to ornateness, I think a bit, and more to flourish. Like Canada also has got Canada in particular has also got like the amazing Parliament Hill. Like, oh my gosh, Parliament Hill is one of the most beautiful places. Um, and it's like you do have some of those buildings too in Toronto. I know, like, that are in that like imperial style almost, I guess is probably what it is, like French. That
Hmm.
is, it is gorgeous. Yeah, it's like French Gothic, like with
In a
the
way,
eternal
yeah.
flame. Yeah, it's really cool. Super beautiful.
Yeah, I remember when I was in Ottawa and I was sitting on this bridge. I was like, man, this is probably like one of the most European cities in Canada I've ever been to.
Yeah,
It
that
feels
and
like that.
Quebec City. Yeah, Quebec City, I thought. Have you ever been there?
I've been to Quebec and Montreal as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, like even like little details like this. What looks to be like Roman columns or Greek. I honestly can't tell them apart. Um, like just the stark difference that you have looking at. Oh my goodness, hold on. Comparing something like this to this building right here,
Yeah,
and
it's like, no.
it's got the face, right? Like it's got the face and it looks great, but then like what happened here, guys? Come on.
Yeah, it looks
What
like a
is
prison.
this?
Maybe it's so it can be built onto. I don't get it. But like, what is that? It can't
Well,
be built onto. I don't get it.
there's also that I don't know if it's a game, but it's like American school versus prison, where like you can't tell the design apart from them.
Oh my gosh. My kids are not going to school.
Well, like that's a prison, that's a school, it's a prison, it's a school, that's a prison, that's a school. Like they look the same. I don't know if that's a prison. I feel like they swapped them just to kind of like screw with us. But the point is that the fact that you can't tell kind of speaks volumes.
Yeah, it does. Oh no. Ugh. Yeah, and it's like then they just spend a bunch of money to add stuff that's still ugly. Don't do this to us.
Yeah,
Ah,
but there's some really
yeah,
cool Texas
so real.
high school architecture where they make these grand sprawling like things. Like even this building, that's not bad. I like that. Or even this.
Yeah, yeah,
That's very cool.
yeah.
What is the largest high school in America?
That's interesting.
Commonwealth Charter Academy. In
How many
terms of
students are there?
land mass, just under 10,000.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Parkland High
I graduated
School.
with like 35 people. It's like, yeah, imagine going to school. I didn't even, that's a lot. That's big. That's like college. It's crazy.
Let's see if we can't.
Where is that located?
This is
Commonwealth.
in Pennsylvania.
Wow.
Let's see if I can get a good view of it.
Wow.
Yeah, like that's cool.
Yeah. It's all right. It's kind of what you expect. It's like your Nouveau Greek. It's like a
Yeah.
Nouveau Greek kind of look.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
it's
the,
not
the
bad.
point that we're getting at is that like there's certain institutions like buildings that are made, they're supposed to be um symbolic of what's inside of them in some way, shape, or form. It's supposed to kind of show the value of the thing that's actually being done in there. And if you just put a gray box in there with some glass and metal beams, it's like, well, doesn't really seem like an impression is to be made here, which is more like, oh, the work needed to be done and that's it. And we're not in a place
Yeah.
where like, or we're, you know, trying to survive. Like, no, we're thriving in the West. We're lucky to be thriving here. So shouldn't we, you know, build with that spirit?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think it's, yeah, for the government part, I have no idea what exactly, like, that's just a leadership issue for sure. Of like, when there were like public works projects at a certain point here in in America, those are some of the most beautiful buildings. Like if this whole country looked like that would be amazing too. They were actually just beautiful. Mm. But like, yeah, so I'm not necessarily counting on the government to do great things. Maybe they will, maybe they won't.
No,
But
certainly not.
definitely like in your own life. And here's the thing too, like you cannot discount the fact of like all of this, like we talk about slop like on the internet, but like it's like on a timeline kind of way. But imagine like what we've been getting in our stores for so long. Like, so I think that's it too. It's like beauty and aesthetic. Everything went out the door, probably kind of on purpose to a degree. Like beauty, quality, and actually non-toxicity. Like there's so much toxicity out there in like and so many products, So it's like all of that has been like going into our system for the last like 50 years or whatever, 40, 50 years from like, I don't know, just like the 70s, I guess, when people start to transition manufacturing or like plastic becomes bigger or like whatever, you know? Yeah, and then you're suddenly like have a population that is kind of like totally apathetic and falling apart almost because everything about their experience has been like, I don't know, a little bit designed to like take the vitality out of them for sure. Like on purpose. Like again, I think about school a lot, like because I liked school. I liked learning things. I'll say it that much. I was pretty bored at school, but like I still did a good job. But like I think about it a lot, like these type of things. I don't have the answer quite yet of what the ideal day looks like in a kid's life. But I know for sure it doesn't involve sitting down for 8 hours. Like, really just does not involve that. It probably involves sitting down for like 2 hours, you know, like in the day. So it's all of these things that definitely do. This is our great reclaiming of our vitality. That's why, like, I don't know. I was I was working on some stuff for the site and I was revisiting just like the about us part of like, okay, what are we doing? Like, what is our mission? Just reworking that a little bit. And I'm like, once again, it's like because we're gonna keep going, because we are gonna keep going, because we gotta keep going for ourselves and for progeny. Like, okay, Renaissance, 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 Renaissance. Like this feeling of renewed vitality every day, ideally, like to get into that space where it's the Kundalini energy, it's the being present, and that's the thing that's going to create the things that we really want, which, like you said, ultimately at the end of the day, it's going to come back to like your own family. It's like, I think you have like family, but then you create your own family. I think that's we just got there kind of like ultimately, but I do think that's if maybe that's not written into everyone's timeline, but if it is, I could see that as being the thing that actually does sustain you. Like that would be fun. That would be enriching. And so, yeah, it's like even in talking about like babies these days, you know, I feel like it's so important to not just talk to them about or ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because again, we don't really know what the future is going to be like. But if they can connect into their authenticity of who they are, have a strong sense of who they are through life, then however the future changes, they can do something that they enjoy that's truly gonna benefit them as not only like, yeah, like a function of productivity in this life. Okay, it's so matrix. We're like, what are we here to do? What can we do? What can we accomplish? What can we contribute? Yes, but also like just being like a living being. I think society has made us so much in forward motion. And I'm not saying that's obviously part of the human gene, but like, I think that also in our sentience and in this abundance, and then being like, oh, okay, people want to live for 300 years. Well, do you want to be happy while you're doing that? Well, what does it really take to be happy? All these kind of questions, like, keep drawing us back into the fundamental need to like know who we are and like, um, yeah, and know that being here as we are and who we are is our purpose, really. We're here to show up as ourselves, I think. Because it's our life, like, what else are we doing? I've been thinking about a lot of LARPing lately. Because I was like, a lot of people LARP, a lot of LARPing out there, you know, you know,
Yeah, I mean
just makes you.
it's an easier alternative, but there's not really as much of a cost to it. But um, more to your point about like when you say that stuff about the babies, it's and the stuff about how schools should be designed. It's I think we never, at least in the West, we never really made the leap significantly enough in terms of creating systems around our lives that are in tune with what it's actually supposed to be like. Because if we actually did care about the education of the next generation, we certainly wouldn't put them in a classroom for 8 hours, because there's no correlation between you doing as much homework as possible and getting like the best grades. Like there's plenty of stories and incidents that every one of us have had where you sit down for a test and then the kid beside you is like, man, I haven't studied at all, I don't know what I'm doing, I have no clue, and then next thing you know they get a higher mark than you. So it's like, okay, well, what does that tell you? Well, that tells you that you don't necessarily need to study all night or pull an all nighter or do all this work in order to get ahead. And then when it comes to like post-secondary institutions like universities and colleges, in a lot of classes, if you just give the professor what they want, they'll give you that mark. But what they want may not necessarily be aligned with the actual prerequisites for the career that you're going into that you need the course for. Maybe the professor is just really opinionated, and if you validate their opinion, they'll get their mark. There's just all these things that are not aligned with humane characteristics that are breaking down. I mean, I couldn't imagine having to work in an office under fluorescent lights for 8-9 hours out of the week and doing that every single day with no natural light, recycled oxygen, drinking from water coolers or relying on like McDonald's for lunch and whatnot. Like that'll keep you alive and breathing, sure, but like your hair is gonna fall out by the time you're 35 from stress or otherwise. And I understand that there's a need for a certain amount of like kind of like a conveyor belt when it comes to designing workplaces. Like I get it, you can't have an open glass ceiling in a McDonald's, I I understand that, right? Like, and then how they design their space there, but that doesn't mean that we can at least try to give a genuine effort to creating these spaces that are more in tune with who we are as human beings. Because at the end of the day, like, then all it comes down to, in terms of keeping up with the evolution of whether it's technology or culture or whatnot, is like a band-aid is applied. Like, oh, all of a sudden, Chat GPT comes out. Well, now professors have AI scanning tools that they use in order to detect whether like someone's cheating or not. It's like, okay, well, I get that in the short term. I understand why that's like might be a useful tool in the meantime. But realistically, like, the reason that has happened is because these post-secondary institutions have made it so that what matters is like the paper, what matters is the exam, what matters is this, what matters is that. Like, how can you demonstrate your knowledge? But that's not really an effective way of, once again, like distinguishing whether someone actually understands a concept or whether they didn't. They could have just memorized it, or they could have, found some kind of other loophole behind it.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually demonstrate that you learned anything. Whereas I know for a fact in the Soviet Union, the way that they used to do exams, and this is actually something that we could all learn from, when they would have the exams, it wouldn't be written, it would be verbal, and you would walk up to the professor, and they had a list of like a 3x3 grid of cue cards. You don't know which topic is under which, so you're picking mystery topic, and you have to know everything about every single one of the topics because you don't know which one you're going to pick. And the moment that you flip one over, it's like a question or some kind of a calculation that you have to do and explain and show your work. And it's in that moment, it's you and the professor. So there's no bullshitting. There's no amount of lying.
Yeah.
There's no amount of cheating. There's no amount of anything that will get you out of that situation. It's either you know it or you don't. And one of the easiest tests to like is whether you know something is try to explain it to someone that doesn't know anything about it, or better yet, knows a lot about it. And so you kind of have to just kind of talk it through. Like that is the easiest way to find out if someone actually understands a concept, is if they're actually able to explain it. Not just know it, not just understand it, but explain it. And that, like, doing that exam, okay, it might take a little longer. You know, students might have to be there for a little bit longer, waiting for the professor to call them up. But at the end of the day, you're testing your knowledge in real time. You have to explain it. You also have to communicate it in a way that is understandable. And there's no way to cheat that. Now, I'm not saying that like, okay, everybody in med school has to now give an oratory exam and give a speech and all that stuff. Like, okay, this can't obviously be applied to certain things, but for the liberal arts, it could certainly be applied. Why not? Okay, like stretch out the exams over a couple of weeks instead of a single week or two, like they do, and they cram these people into these rooms. Everyone's filled with anxiety on their third Red Bull of the day, you know, just trying to make sure that they pass the class, and then when they're done, a wave of relief washes over them. It's like, is that really like what we want learning
Yeah.
to be? This like fast paced, like get in, get out, sit down, shut up, don't speak, like environment?
Yeah.
Like, is this really what we want the next generation to uh to understand, as like that's their mode of operation? Because the moment that you get out of university, you realize that the world is actually not at all like that. It actually isn't. Deadlines can be passed or pushed. Things get canceled all the time. And typically it matters more who you know than what you know, depending on which industry that you're in. So
Yeah.
social skills and socializing and networking and all that comes into play. So it's just
Yeah.
brings it back to the point. Like the ideas of this one system, the education system, and the how it's implemented is actually not in line with characteristics that are humane. Not entirely, really. Like, isn't it kind of strange how the bell rings at the same time every single day? Kind of like how a factory worker would hear the bell ring at the same time every day, and you have a designated lunchtime, and everyone has to fit, like has to be forced to conform to these dates and times. Now I understand there's a reason for it. I get it. You know, you're dealing with kids that are just full of energy all the time, so you want to get them to pay attention and follow strict rules. Okay, but that's not how life is. Because the moment that you get out of that, if you never had a taste of freedom, you're gonna find yourself on a day where you have free time, and you're like, man, I don't know what to do with myself. I'm so used to being told what to do and where to go and whether or not I can go to the bathroom. I mean, the amount of times like professors have had to tell
Oh,
people off, I remember in class, like, you can just go. You're an adult. Like, stop asking me this. This is ridiculous.
yeah. So real. Yeah. So to keep that sense of agency from, yeah, from when kids are really young, like keeping them, allowing, nurturing their interests, of course, teaching them the ways of the world, like the things they should know. But like, yeah, really making sure that they are enjoying themselves and that they are having good time and that they're doing things in a fulfilling way. That's funny about the oral exam. I have done that before. But yeah, that was also like I was overseas. So that was like it was hard. It was like you were just like so I was doing it in a foreign language and then like yeah, like I was living in France like studying that class was like a class on the um revolution and counter-revolution. So it's like the nearest and dearest subject matter to their hearts. And I got into that exam. This guy's like, "Do you speak French?" I was like, "I hope so." It's like,
Hmm.
anyways, I passed, and some of my friends didn't. I don't know if that's because I was foreign or not, but I did know my stuff, and I actually still remember that stuff to this day. A lot of it, like I remember. I'm not like one of these people that's so encyclopedic about memory. Like some people are so good like that. I'm more of a process person, and I'm more of like a systems person. Like I don't know how to say that. Some things I memorize really easily, like language, generally speaking. But like, yeah. So I'm just saying, like for me, like yeah, the idea of memorizing things. And actually, I also took a bad grade one time because I didn't do that thing where I just agreed with the professor's opinion. And I felt like she was like actually the commie of all. Like if I had one communist teacher, it was her. And of course it was because it was like an international it was international law, like politics class. It's like of course it was her. But like yeah, it's so interesting, right? And even just the idea of like I don't know, like teaching kids math by like making food together. I don't know, like stuff you could do, right? Like that would be fun
Well, just anything beyond paper and pencil, because once again, it's
and
just
creative. Yeah, exactly.
it's not in line with
Yeah,
how
we
people
need to.
operate. It's not in line with what they want to do or with what they're capable of doing. Like, how many graphs do you have to draw out until you're just like, Jesus, like, where am I gonna see this in real life? What does this matter? Like, why is this
Well,
actually useful?
I don't know. It's funny because I like graphs, but yeah, like
Well, no, but it's like
I like love
I uh,
graphs.
I understand that that it has utility, but I mean more so like if it's not if what you're being taught is not actually applied in any meaningful way, and it just like the value of it only exists in that classroom, in that grade, in that moment, and it doesn't actually extend anywhere into your daily life, then that knowledge stays there, because chances are it's so frustrating to learn that you don't even want to take it into your personal life unless you just I don't know somehow fall in love with a subject or what have you.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't really bleed um into life. And the great lesson of school, in my opinion, should be that you're always learning. Like all this stuff, like all this frustration that people have with grades and getting into schools and all these things, it's like this is not, it shows to me that it's the system is not framed in the right way. You're just concerned about getting into these institutions so you can get a good job and so on and so forth, you know, down the dominoes. But realistically, like the lesson that people should come away with is that learning is a lifelong act and that it doesn't end when you leave the classroom. It doesn't end when you hand in the paper. It doesn't end when you graduate. It's a lifelong thing. And the people that are able to harness that, the people that are able to adapt to that, they're the ones that are actually going to succeed, because they don't think of learning as something that, oh my god, like, oh, I have this homework or this or that. Like they see it in concepts, in tools, in lessons that they take with them in their other disciplines, and they actually make something of themselves with it. Because schools are they're made to function to pump out workers. That's basically the function that they serve right now. But that's not in line with reality or with humane ideals that in some way, shape, or form transcend time. And school, like I know, keep going back to this example, but it's not the only one. Like the healthcare system is the same way. Like, why is it that hospital food is notoriously bad? Like it's a
Yeah,
stereotype at
it's
this
so
point. When you're
sinful. Yeah,
when
it's literally a shame.
you're
Yeah.
recovering from like gunshot wounds or like a burst appendix or a broken leg or what have you, and in order to fuel your recovery, they give you Jello and a piece of meat that's been stale for weeks. It doesn't make
No.
any sense whatsoever. And they do it because it's, you know, it's cheaper. They have overhead costs to concern. I get it. I understand.
No, it's
I'm not
so
ignorant to
wrong.
that. But
Yeah.
you're telling me in this world of abundance, like that's not something that is possible. Like we can't have some kind of oversight on that. You know, whether it's the government or the people or what have you. But yeah, like all these systems, they are not all, but a good chunk of them, they're not aligned with what people actually need. They're not aligned
Yeah.
with what actually happens in those buildings.
Yeah, I think that's where, yeah, we can like bring it back to that, is that a life that is actually designed to support your life, you know? Yeah. A life that is actually designed to support your life. Your sense of well-being, your needs are met. What are they? Yeah, and then again, from that place, what do you want to do? You know, when it comes to art, like I feel like a lot of times the journey is, well, you kind of come to a crossroads, just like anything, where you're gonna say, am I gonna make art about, it's always a response, right? But you're like, am I gonna make art that like complains about whatever or laments about whatever? Or am I gonna make art that shows more of what I want to see, that like sets the tone actually, that creates, like puts more out there that you do want to see and like have be a part of the whole overall picture of things, putting out more of that signal. That's what I always felt like. Like sometimes over the years, it's taken me a while to figure out what I want to make, because I think that, like in like just, yeah, in general, kind of like, but yeah, because you do ideally want it to be coming from that true place. And then to get there, sometimes you have to strip back things, but you also have to develop more. And I think that's the good news about authenticity too, is that it's not just exactly who you were when you were born. You know, it's like you're still you today, now. You know, there's still like your most authentic you now. And what does that authentic you need? And yeah, I don't know. I like that, like, there's so much, there's something to be said too for like just imagining life without screens, and in that like sweet spot of time where it was like civilization was kind of developed, and maybe you were kind of an academic and like you just did things like at night in your study. You're like, what were you doing? Like, what were those things where you were just like doing your thing? Like, what was that thing?
I mean, I like
You
indoor
know?
plumbing and heating and cooling.
All right.
So, yeah, I don't I don't know if I would
Why not?
if I would want to go back, but I get the instinct. I understand it. It seemed like it was more real back then, if that's even the right word to say it.
It's
It
so funny.
just
Okay, well, fast forward it a little bit to where you have those things, you know? But it's just like like not that long
yeah.
ago. Like people we know that are alive, or like, yeah. I don't know what era that is. Maybe it didn't exist. No, 1800s Europe. Something.
Yeah, where things were. I mean, I don't know. It's because it's easy to look back on the past, like with rose tinted glasses, but they had their own problems back then, and I don't
Yeah.
know to what extent like
So
people
weird.
had people had systems around them that were kind of more in line with humane characteristics. It's really hard to say. I don't know if there is a single time in the past where that happened, and then also you had the comforts of society, where your fruit wouldn't rot in 3 days if you didn't refrigerate it, or your refrigerator was literally a wooden box with a giant ice cube in it. Um, I don't know. I think if anything, is a safer bet that time is yet to come, and we're about to, or at least we're helping birth that reality. Um, Because as I said, like yeah, like once these things like become more automated, right? Whether it's the building of these buildings or the advancement of technology or medicine or knowledge or anything like that, it's just going to become easier to iterate. So it's going to become easier to automate beautiful buildings to be made, like Monumental Labs is making. It's going to be easier to build public works. It's going to be easier to build shrines to certain ideals that we have, to make stores actually look like something more than just glass and cement, you know. It's going to become easier to iterate that. So if anything, we're actually we're seeing that uh, being made in real time, and it's only a matter of generations until we actually live in that kind of a place where you have that.
Yeah, just yeah, makes you want to go outside more. Like if we want to go outside, then we need to be living in places that make us want to go out there, you know? Both in nature and architecture, both. And culture. That's it too. It's like if you have all of the setup, but then you have no culture, okay, well, it looks great, you know? Let's say you did. We arrived there. We're like, we have planned the community. It's like we planned the community and now like everything's neat and like cool, like unique. But like again, I feel like where we're at in culture, it's like, are you going to manufacture culture or are you going to foster culture? I guess is the way to say that. So I feel like that's why too. It's like, and again, of course, everything always meets, right? Like business meets the culture, culture meets the business, etc. But yeah, it's like, I guess I keep thinking about building houses, in particular, like throughout this whole conversation, and like, okay, well, just like the really like things with character, something with character, you know, something with character, which is also, of course, created by the life you live there. So once again, it's like it could be so pared down and simple. I mean, I guess I also keep thinking about like taking off in a spaceship and living that way too. Like you could probably have a cool life doing that, you know? Like it would be so pared down. I don't know. It's just, I don't know exactly what question we're trying to answer in some way, but like I feel like it's all coming back to once again, it's like, what's the life you want to live and how do you want to live it? I think, I feel like that's the real question. Like that's sort of, and like when you show up, where are you showing up? How are you showing up? Why are you showing up? What's your purpose?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, I was gonna ask, did you want to end it off with that, or did you have anything else to say there?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what we needed to talk about today was just sort of, you know, I'll say this last thing is like we can think all we want to about purpose and deciding what it is, but often it is in the act itself that we truly know it. I gotta say, like, cause again, it's like a lot of times I'll be like, why am I like with art? It's like you could go so many different ways in your career, and it's like I've chosen a certain way, but like at the same time, I still want to have room in my life for fine art that's like truly like yeah like making sculptural or works like I was saying that I just completed this fiber piece. It's like actually making the work and then you see it and it becomes so beautiful you remember why you're doing it. It's like as I braided each strand and added more and more, it's like this really like kind of like dense cool fiber piece. Like I had no idea what I was going to do when I first started it. And I just knew I wanted to make a fiber piece, and I just started braiding some jute because I didn't really know what other pattern to like weave. I was like, well, I can braid stuff, So I like made a pattern, and then really in making the work, and it's been a work in progress for probably about like a good year. I actually started making the work because I was reading this biography called Chalk about Cy Twombly. And every time I would get into that book, it's like I could read like one chapter of it. Take me, I would go like to this place, get a cup of coffee, read one chapter of it. I could never get past one chapter because it was just like too much. Like I had to like absorb that whole chapter into my life for like another week or something like that. So it was like during that time period. And also like cool because like in that book they're talking a lot about his time at Black Mountain College and it's very near to like where I'm from. So anyways, just a lot of things to like make you remember why you're doing the work and why yeah, why are you doing this? Why are you here? So anyways, we can leave off with that, but it's like It's in the making, I think, that we find it too. So yeah, keep making things as much as you think about it. Make sure to make some things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
Just keep going. Just keep making stuff.
keep going. Gotta keep going.
Gotta keep going.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you for everyone for joining us. We got more interviews coming up this week, so stay tuned for that. You can find us at outsider_supply on X, and we have all the links there. So yeah, please do check that out. Got more collections on the way, so stay tuned, and we'll see you guys later.
Yeah. Okay. See you next time.